Hello my gamers. Today I bring you the Extinction Spreadsheet v.4. This is an updated version of the Extinction Spreadsheet v3 that I posted back in July. It's essentially the same exact thing, the format hasn't really changed at all, just with a few things that are different. I'll go through the whole spreadsheet pretty quickly, just to sum it up for people that are new, and then I'll post a link in the description to the previous video that I did describing the v3, which goes a lot more in depth into all of this stuff. So, to start it off, these first two pages here are the weapon charts, probably one of the most important parts of this spreadsheet. The way this works is, this is the point blank damage, I have it listed as the max damage of the weapon, rate of fire in rounds per minute, and then damage per second. The weapons are sorted by category, and then within, or by category as in like weapon class, and then within class they're sorted by increasing DPS. So at the top we've got the best guns, and at the bottom we've got the worst guns, at least in terms of point blank damage per second. So for reference, I've included the cryptid HP values over here, so that you're not just wondering like, oh, what does 1428 DPS means? It means that it'll kill a cedar in under a second. So yeah, this is all pretty neat stuff here. To go over the three guns that I've updated the damage values, that is the CBJMS, the MR28, and the VKS. The CBJMS and the MR28 just changed slightly. It was like 73 to 75, and then the MR28 was 515 to 500. Just changed these values a little bit by testing them against the barrier hives and refining the damage value just a little bit. The VKS changed a lot. It went down a lot. Basically, when you test the VKS against a barrier hive, you find that it does about 350 damage. When you test it against the Ancestor Challenge, you find that it does 402.5 damage. I think the reason for this discrepancy is that the sniper rifles might receive different critical hit multipliers than the other weapons. It could be that, that would make sense from a gameplay design perspective, right? The snipers are rewarded more for getting critical hits than other weapons are. So I think it's something like normal guns will do like 20% extra damage for a critical hit, and the snipers might do something along the lines of 38, 40%, 35%, something significantly higher, which explains why the VKS's damage, or why I overestimated the VKS's damage in the past. There were a few cryptids that I determined their HP values by using the VKS, and so I had to retest those. That was the Kraken and the Obelisk on Awakening. I used to think these were about 160,000, 170,000-ish, and now I've moved them down to 140,000 by testing them with the chainsaw instead of the VKS, which I had previously overestimated its damage. I also went ahead and refined the Barrier Hive 1 health value. I thought it was 75,000. I tested it a bunch more and I found it's actually 65,000, which helps explain why the first Barrier Hive dies so much faster than the second one, because there's a bit more of an HP gap. Also, there's more propane tanks on the first hive. And then the Tentacle, I've changed this HP value as well. I changed it from 18,000 to 19,600, but this one's weird. So the Tentacle, of course, this is referring to the tentacle that you have to defeat on the third hive of Mayday. It has a certain amount of HP, which I think is about this, 19,600. Maybe it's 20,000, because this is kind of a weird number, but I got this like twice in a row, so I just stuck with it. It has this amount of HP, but it also has like a 30-second timer. And if you defeat the tentacle, like if you deal this much damage to the tentacle before the 30 seconds up, he will just remain there for the remainder of the 30 seconds. Basically the same way as the Kraken. If you deal all of his HP allotted to the phase in the final boss fight, will just wait until his animations play out. I think it's a similar thing with the tentacle. He has to wait till like his timer plays out before he leaves. But I mean, that doesn't matter for like any speedrun thing, because he's just there. He doesn't impede you from moving on at all. So that's everything that's changed in the first two pages. Nothing has changed at all on this page, obviously. This page here is, if you haven't seen it before, this is a chart that tells you what weapons are located on which map. It also tells you what maps a weapon is located on. So say you're thinking, oh, I really want to use the MR28 next game. Well, you go over here to the MR28 and you see, oh, it's only on point of contact in Nightfall, so I'm going to have to play one of these two maps. Or you go on to Awakening and you're like, what gun should I get? Well, you can just look vertically down this column and you see these the weapons here are sorted by DPS in class, so the weapons at the top of each of these boxes deal more damage than the weapons at the bottom. So you can use that to kind of gauge which guns you want to use. The top 10 guns by point blank DPS has not changed at all, despite the fact that the VKS and the MR28 have updated the damage values. The ranking didn't change. I did change my personal favorite top 10. As you might expect, the VKS is up top. This thing's just a monster. It's basically like an infinite range bulldog. It's just a lot weaker than the bulldog. I'm just a huge fan of it. I'm sure you can tell. And then next I have the ARX 160, the highest DPS full auto in the game. I feel like if you can get an extended mags on this thing, it just becomes an absolute monster, because I feel like the ARX has a lot of punch at range. Like it's not only a like a close range gun like the K7 down here is. It has a lot of reach to it as well. It's a shame that it's only on Nightfall and Mayday, because it's really good. And then yeah, like I said here, the K7, it's only on Awakening and Exodus, so you've got this nice little like gap between the two guns. You can use the ARX on Nightfall and Mayday, K7 on Awakening and Exodus. K7 feels like the ARX up close. It feels nice and like melty, like the enemies just like fall apart up close, but at a distance, especially against like gargoyles and stuff, it is kind of lacking, which is why I have the ARX 160 higher. Next up is the Bulldog. It's insane. You've seen the Bulldog work. I'm sure you've used it yourself. Put armor piercing or incendiaries in there, and then you can just absolutely go to town. The Bulldog will, if you're a weapon specialist, I don't even think you have to be maxed out. Maybe you do, but if you're a weapon specialist with an arc on the Bulldog and an extended mags, you can kill a mammoth without ever having to reload. You can kill a rhino without having to reload, even without extended mags. This Bulldog is just a monster. And then the chainsaw, another fantastic weapon, especially if you can put rapid fire on it. I feel like the chainsaw doesn't really struggle with ammo at all. It's got 500 rounds with the default mag. The 750 isn't really all that necessary. And if you put rapid fire on it, it just makes its DPS very high. The chainsaw also has higher movement speed than the other LMGs, which makes it better than the other ones in my book as well. MR28, another fantastic gun. I think it really requires Cryptid Slayer ammo to shine, though, because you have the arcing stun ammo, which goes around and deals a ton of damage to the enemies, and it makes it easier to hit stuff as well. Just all around really good gun, but I've come to like other guns a little more than the MR28 at this point. SA805, it feels kind of like just a weaker ARX 160. I think the SA805 might perform a little worse at range than the ARX, but also it doesn't really compete with the ARX at all, because it's only on point of contact, and it doesn't have any it doesn't share any maps in common with the ARX, so it's a little bit lower than the ARX here. The Vector, I like this SMG a lot. It's got a lot of like punch at range, which most of the SMGs lack. Kind of feels like an assault rifle in that regard. Makes it good to use on point of contact when you're trying to like kill stuff while it's still like trying to get into the map and not even to the drill yet. And then this one's new. This one wasn't on my top 10 at all. So far at this point, the top 10 have just been rearranged, but I used the Vepr for that no loadout run on Nightfall, and I was realizing like, this thing feels pretty good. It feels pretty solid up close. It's certainly no ARX 160, but it's got some beef to it, and I was vibing with it, so I decided to throw the Vepr on the personal favorite top 10 for this list. And then at the bottom of the top 10, I have the Maverick. You notice that it has a very low DPS value. That's because I think the Maverick is really only worth using if you put a rapid fire on it, because then once you do that, you get a gun that has a lot more, that's powerful at range, has ammo, and has a not great but good enough DPS. So yeah, that's why the Maverick's here, at the bottom of the top 10. The Maverick is also basically interchangeable with the AK-12 and the R5. Like, those guns are essentially reskins of each other, so they all are essentially the same. They're all like tied for my bottom of the top 10. Also, one new thing that I added in the notes later, but I feel like I should mention now, is that rapid fire in Ghosts doesn't actually decrease your weapon's range. According to the wiki page, all rapid fire does is increase the rate of fire by like 17% and then add 5% to the recoil values, which is less than the amount of recoil that the grip takes away. So throwing rapid fire on your gun doesn't make it perform worse at range. It just adds a bit of recoil, which you can counter by adding a foregrip. So rapid fire really is like a top tier attachment on most guns. I probably wouldn't use rapid fire on like a K7 or an ARX because then your ammo conservation just gets way too low. But on basically everything else, rapid fire is a very good choice. And then yeah, these are just sorted by DPS, just decreasing from the very top. You can see that up top is the Bulldog, as you expect. The MTS is essentially just the same thing as the Bulldog with smaller mag and fire rate. VKS also on every map like the Bulldog. So is the Chainsaw as well. So you've got a lot of, on every map you have an option for a very high DPS gun. And yeah, this is a pretty good chart to know. This chart here has changed a little bit. I haven't really added that much new information here, but I have color coded it a bit, added some more DPS values. Like for instance, I used to think that the Disruptor was semi-automatic, but then I learned it's full auto. So, well, if it's full auto, then it has a fire rate that I can test, and you can get a DPS value. And it just so happens that it is the third highest DPS gun in the game if you just shoot the Disruptor small shots, which is pretty neat. But yeah, for this page, I've added more information about the portable turret's DPS. I also added that the Disruptor, despite the big shot and the small shot doing the same damage on the Disruptor on the Ancestor challenge, the Disruptor's large shot seems to deal roughly like 2.5 times as much damage as the small shot based on the shots to kill an Ancestor. So that was kind of a weird thing. I made a video about that a while ago, but good to know. The large shot is more powerful than the small shot, but since you can shoot the small shot like 25 times faster, you might as well go in with the small shot whenever you can. I added one more interesting thing here about the MK32. So the MK32 doesn't receive the Engineer's explosive buff, but upgrading the MK32 to +3 gives it to get like the fire grenades. Secretly gives it like a 67% damage increase all the way up to 875 as opposed to the initial 525. So if all of a sudden your MK32 like starts doing way better in a game, like you start like one-shotting things that you weren't one-shotting before, this is why it's that +3 upgrade. So down to the damage multipliers. These things are hell to test because you never know when like one damage multiplier is going to override the other. But this chart here has been updated slightly. I put that note about the snipers potentially dealing more damage to critical hit points. Also, I found that the arc multipliers don't seem to apply to barrier hives. Like when you test a barrier hive's HP with the gun without an arc and then with an arc, you find that it has like 30% more health when you test it with an arc, which would indicate that you're overestimating the arced weapon's damage, which could be explained by the arc not applying to the barrier hive. Maybe it's because the game doesn't see it as like a normal enemy. Maybe it sees it as just like an ambient thing on the map and not like a cryptid. I don't know. It's weird, but this is actually beneficial to a speedrun because it's one less source of RNG that you have to worry about. Right? You don't have to worry about like, oh man, I gotta hope I get an arc before this barrier hive or else I'm gonna have to reset. Now you can just run through it without an arc and it'd be fine. I've added notes about the VKS arc having a different multiplier, likely being a bug related to the integrated suppressor. The weapon specialist ability. So this is the infinite ammo upgrade. So like when you switch over to infinite ammo by double tapping up, it actually decreases your damage per shot by 10%, but since you don't have to reload it all, it does overall increase your damage per like second total, which is why I use it against like barrier hives and stuff. This stuff here about the AP ammo and the incendiary upgrade, that's all the same. And then the rest of this page, the explosive ammo and the engineer explosive multiplier is all this is what I talked about in that Cryptid Slayer ammo video. So explosive ammo and CS ammo both give your weapons a 10% damage boost. Like if you have explosive ammo in your gun, it will just do 10% more damage unless you're a weapon specialist, because that 10% damage boost from the explosive ammo effectively overrides the weapon specialist 20% and 50% buffs. So if you're a weapon specialist and you throw explosive ammo, your damage decreases, not increases, which is kind of weird. And it's good to know for the speedrun. It's what let me kill that barrier hive 2 in like 25 seconds. And then of course I had to retest the engineer explosive multiplier because I used to think the engineer explosive multiplier was just 1.1. Turns out it's a double damage multiplier, like it just straight up doubles it. But when I tested it out against enemies, it was being super weird, and I guess this is what I was able to come up with, is that these things don't receive the engineer buff, and then these things do, which is just odd. I don't know why. I found that the Venom X, it seems to get some kind of damage boost from the engineer +4, but it doesn't seem to be 2 times. Maybe it's like 1.5-ish or something, just based off of like the shots to kill a mammoth. And this, of course, is talking about the explosion, not the gas. I also went ahead and found that the traps receive a 2 times multiplier from the engineer +4, just by counting the amount of hit markers it takes for the electric pawn trap on awakening to kill a mammoth. Hive duration chart here. Nothing's changed at all in this. Obviously, the hives still last as long as they did a year ago. Enemy HP and damage chart. Only things that's changed here are the enemies that I had to retest. So the obelisk, the tentacle, and the kraken. Everything else here is the same as it was in v3. This page hasn't changed it at all. Just XP stuff, prestige symbol chart, and then this class ability duration chart. This is referring to like the weapon specialist instant and ammo ability, the medic fast heal, that stuff. It's just how long does it last as you upgrade the levels. I know people think that putting weapon specialist on the left will automatically make it like this +4. I don't think that's the case. I think that got patched out a long time ago, so I just put weapon specialist on top because that's what I'm used to. Movement speed stuff, again, none of this has changed from v3. The only thing is I've added this little note here about the drill movement speed. So this is a little bit of speed tech from my speedrun explained video. If you have your pistol upgraded to +1 so that you have the 10% movement speed buff, and then you pick up the drill, that 10% movement speed buff goes away. So you don't need to upgrade your pistol for a speedrun. It doesn't affect your drill movement speed at all. And the notes here, this is where the bulk of the changes happened. This notes part, it used to be part of the spreadsheet, and it looked really bad, and now I made it a Word document, which should hopefully be a little easier to read and navigate. It also went from 2 pages to 8 pages, so I've just added all of the stuff that I've learned within the last year into this notes little database here. Boss fights, this stuff was there previously. Weapon rotation, this is new. It's talking about how you switch weapons. So like when you press triangle, how do you know what weapon is going to come up next? This is talking about that. It's really easy without a riot shield, but when you put a riot shield on, it gets really dumb. I'm not going to read everything in this notes part because it's a solid 3,500 words, and y'all can read, so have fun. Money multiplier, specialized ammo, this was all there previously except for the explosive ammo. This is the stuff about like the Cryptid Slayer ammo weird thing. Teeth grinding. People have asked me to like make a video about tooth grinding. I don't know if I'm gonna actually do that because I feel like this is really all you need to know about it. I went a little more in depth on this right here than I did in the v3, but basically if you're trying to grind teeth, you just go for completionists, right? Completionists are worth a total of 6 teeth. You get 4 from the completionist and then 2 for completing the 10th challenge, so challenges are in total worth 6. If you can run hardcore, go for it because it's an extra 3 teeth. Make sure you're getting platinum escapes. So just do the escape sequence fast, and I'll give you a few extra. And throw on a couple relics, but only to the point where you can still consistently get a completionist. Like I would say if you're getting completionists like 5 out of 6 times, that's a good place to be. You can be comfortable with that, and then from there you can like put a relic on if you'd like to get a little more. Ultra hardcore, same as always. The speed tech, this is new to the v4. It talks about essentially this is just everything that I mentioned in the speedrun explain video. Although this G swap here, I don't think I've ever really talked about this. It's a cool little trick I found on Exodus. So when you're shooting the disruptor, if you shoot all of the 10 little shots, the disruptor gets locked into like a cooldown animation, but pulling out a grenade will cancel it. So if you if you hold R1 and then press triangle, that will cancel, or holding R1 to pull the grenade out will cancel the cooldown animation, and then pressing triangle while holding R1 will cancel the grenade throw. So if you shoot the NX1 dry, hold R1, press triangle twice, it'll get you, it'll cancel the cooldown animation and then get you to a new weapon, which is pretty neat to know because it'll save your ass if you're, if you went in on like an ancestor and then you just need to like kill something to get it out of your way, but you're locked in a cooldown animation. This is a good thing to know. I've added a section here about glitches because people have asked about that. I just went through all the ones that I know. So this is about getting on top of the Hive in the secondary point of contact. This is about the feral instincts, like the infinite feral Easter egg on point of contact involving the LOL, or the infinite feral glitch involving the LOL Easter egg on point of contact. Then I talk about the turret glitch a bit, and then the double meteor skip, which is like the super turret glitch. Important thing is if someone manages to find a way to make the full super turret glitch where it actually gets you like teleported to the other side of the map work on solo, like if someone makes that possible, then I think the point of contact speedrun solo could go under 37 minutes, which would just be nuts. And then I talk about the Moz glitch here. I recently made a video on this, and actually the video I made was because I was writing this part and I was thinking, man, this is kind of complicated. I should show people what it looks like instead of just talking about it. So Moz glitch, it's the video right here. Shout out to XtraBR for finding the variation of it that allows it to be used in solo and in runs and stuff. I fill out this miscellaneous part a bit more. You can feel free to read this. There's some fun stuff in there. And then these notes are just notes about the spreadsheet. I'll go ahead and read through these. They're kind of important to know. So I want to say that the damage values of weapons in this spreadsheet that aren't on Exodus are just my best guesses. Because I don't have the Ancestor Challenge available to me on maps that aren't Exodus, I just have to... There's a lot of uncertainty involved with finding damage values because you have to like base it off of shots to kill cryptids and stuff. I'm confident that all of the damage values are reasonable estimates and that they do reflect the weapon's in-game performance, especially relative to other weapons, but I can, again, only be 100% sure about the damages of Exodus weapons. Of course, the cryptid HP values are also estimates for this reason, right? If every cryptid had a health bar that was actually accurate, not unlike the Ancestors one, I could be a lot more confident about the cryptid HP values, but at this point, the only way that I can tell how much HP cryptid has is by just measuring how many, or just observing how many shots it takes to kill a cryptid with a weapon, and then trying to figure out how much health it has based on that. There's a Japanese Extinction wiki page that goes a lot more in-depth into things than the English one does. Not everything in there is super accurate. Like there's some like sus damage multipliers and stuff, but it's really cool to check out. Basically, the Japanese Extinction YouTuber gave me the link to this. I'll show you what it looks like actually. So you go here, and of course you probably can't read this, but this will pop up if you're on Edge. You can do it on Chrome as well by right-clicking. Just hit translate, and boom, it's in English. Isn't that cool? Yeah, this is a pretty neat webpage to check out. That's why I stuck it at the end of the spreadsheet there. And then there is one more thing. So, I made a Discord server for this Extinction community. I have no experience in making or moderating Discord servers, so essentially it's just a bunch of like text channels and voice channels and stuff, but I'm hoping people can use it to talk about Extinction and maybe build build squads to go play custom games with and stuff. I've actually I made this server a while ago, but I've been really hesitant about sharing it because I'm about to go do drum corps here in like 2 weeks, and I absolutely will not have time to do any sort of moderation on this Discord server. Also, I don't have any experience with that either, so um, I'm basically making the server, giving it to y'all, and just saying like, have fun. So I didn't want to just like leave this thing in a pinned comment on like a speed run and then have 200 people jump into it real quick and just make it like a bad environment and super toxic and stuff, because I wouldn't be able to handle that at all. So I've kind of hidden it down here, on page 17 of this in-depth Extinction PDF, so that only people who legitimately care about Extinction a lot find it. But yeah, you're welcome to join and talk about Extinction if you'd like. So this last page here, this is just a summary of all the changes. We talked about all this stuff throughout the course of the video here, and then these are things that I would like to research more and potentially add to the spreadsheet in the future. I'll go ahead and read all these because I think this is important. I'd like to at some point construct damage profiles for the Exodus weapons. Essentially, figure out how their damage changes over range, because right now all of my damage values are point blank. This is going to be only Exodus weapons because testing shots to kill on all the other weapons like at different ranges would make me like lose my mind. So this, if I ever get around to doing damage values over range, it's going to be Exodus weapons only. Or, if someone would like to data mine the game and just find all this stuff, because that's possible. I have no idea how to do it, but back when the COD forums were still a thing, there was a guy that data mined the pistol damage values over range. So like you had the entire damage drop-off curve of the 4 pistols, and that was super cool. I wish I got a screenshot of that, but unfortunately that is like lost to time because those forums got deleted. So if someone with those skills wants to do that for Extinction, that would be amazing. And then I would like to refine and double check the enemy HP values just by doing a bunch more trials, the point of contact weapon damage values by testing them against barrier hives, and then the Mayday weapon damage values by testing them against the Kraken. Because these things have a lot of HP and a health bar, I can get a little more detailed damage values than I can with just measuring shots to kill on like a hunter or something. I'd like to look into incendiary ammo more. There's some really weird stuff that goes on with it. Like, I don't think the incendiary ammo damage stacks, but I've observed fire pulses doing different amounts of damage to like the Ancestor challenge. Like I've seen it as low as 13 and as high as 34. So maybe like you can stack fire damage by using like different sources to do it. Like maybe like your gun's fire damage stacks with like a grenade or something. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff there, and I'd like to look into it at some point in the future. Another thing I'd like to do is come up with a better estimate for the arcing stun ammos, like how much damage the lightning bolts do. My rough estimate right now is that the lightning bolts deal 70% of the initial bullet damage, but that's not backed up by too much testing. Like that was a pretty quick and dirty test that gave me that 70% value, so it could potentially be way off, and that would be a good thing to test in the future. And then the last thing on here is test burst fire. I really like never use burst fire at all, so I've never done any testing with it. And I was trying to test the MR28 with burst fire because someone asked me to, but I played like 5 games of point of contact all the way through to the second barrier hive to like try and get some data on it, and I literally did not find a single burst fire like in those 5 games. So I just kind of gave up and like shelved it for a while. I was done after that. So looking into burst fire and see how it affects the damage and damage per second values of the guns would be pretty neat. Maybe I could find like some guns actually are good with burst fire. I don't know, but that'd be cool stuff to test in the future. So yeah, that's the Extinction Spreadsheet v4. If you made it through this video, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching this whole thing. I'm glad this extinction community is able to, you know, still exist in 2021. I think that's pretty sweet. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Of course, links in the description. Peace.